The plasma drill's whine cut through the thin atmosphere of Kythara like a metallic scream, and Dr. Elena Vasquez couldn't help but wince as she adjusted her suit's audio dampeners. 3 months into what the Terran Science Council had optimistically called a routine mineral survey, and she was beginning to suspect that whoever wrote that mission briefing had never actually set foot on an alien world. Nothing about Kythara was routine. Still picking up those energy signatures, Doc, came the crackling voice of Petty Officer Rodriguez through her comm. He was stationed 50 meters away, running geological scans with equipment that cost more than most planetary settlements. Whatever's down there, it's not showing up on any of our databases. Elena wiped the condensation from her visor and peered at her scanner's display. The readings were impossible, energy patterns that seemed to pulse with an almost organic rhythm, emanating from somewhere deep beneath the crystalline formations that dotted this region of the planet. She'd been tracking similar anomalies for weeks, each one leading her further from the designated survey zones and deeper into what the orbital reconnaissance had dismissively labeled as geological curiosities. How deep? She asked, already knowing she wasn't going to like the answer. Looks like about 200 meters down, maybe more. But Elena. Rodriguez's voice carried that particular tone that usually preceded bad news. The energy output is increasing. Whatever's down there, it's waking up. Elena felt a familiar tingle of excitement mixed with professional dread. In her 15 years as a xenoarchaeologist, she'd learned to trust that feeling. It usually meant she was about to discover something that would either make her career or get her killed. Sometimes both. Commander Zhao is going to love this, she muttered, adjusting her equipment pack. The mission commander had made it abundantly clear that any deviations from the approved survey parameters would result in what he diplomatically termed career reassessment opportunities. Elena suspected this was military speak for cleaning plasma conduits on a cargo hauler for the rest of your natural life. The ground beneath her feet trembled slightly, and Elena's scanner erupted in a cascade of warning chimes. The energy signatures had just spiked dramatically, and now her instruments were detecting something else, artificial structures. Big ones. Rodriguez, are you seeing this? Affirmative, and I really wish I wasn't. Elena, whatever's down there, it's enormous. We're talking about something the size of a small city. Elena's mouth went dry. Kythara was supposed to be uninhabited. The orbital surveys had confirmed it, no signs of intelligent life, no settlements, no technology beyond basic crystalline formations that appeared to be natural geological features. Yet here she was, staring at readings that suggested a massive artificial complex buried beneath what looked like an ordinary hillside. We need to report this to the commander, Rodriguez continued, his voice tight with protocol-induced anxiety. In a minute, Elena replied, already moving toward what appeared to be a fissure in the crystalline surface. The crack was narrow, barely wide enough for a person in an EVA suit, but her scanner indicated it led directly toward the energy source. I just want to get a visual confirmation first. Elena, you know what happened to the last xenoarchaeologist who decided to just take a quick look at something that wasn't in the mission parameters. Dr. Chen got promoted to department head after his discovery on Kepler 442b, Elena pointed out, carefully maneuvering her equipment toward the fissure. That was before he spent 6 months in a Centauri medical facility recovering from exotic radiation poisoning, Rodriguez countered. And I heard he still glows slightly in the dark during solar storms. Elena couldn't help but smile despite her growing apprehension. Rodriguez had an uncanny ability to find the worst possible outcome in any situation, a talent that somehow made even the most dangerous xenoarchaeological expeditions feel almost routine. That's just a rumor. Probably. She activated her suit's external lights and peered into the crack. The fissure descended at a steep angle, but it appeared stable, and her atmospheric readings indicated breathable air below. More importantly, the energy signatures were getting stronger. Elena, Rodriguez's voice carried a new note of urgency. I'm picking up movement down there. Something big. Define big. Like, maybe we should call for backup, big. Elena's training warred with her curiosity. Protocol demanded she retreat, establish a secure perimeter, and wait for a full xenoarchaeological team to arrive. But protocol had also demanded she ignore these energy readings for the past 3 weeks, and she was beginning to suspect that following orders to the letter might mean missing the discovery of a lifetime. The fisher beckoned, and Elena found herself calculating the odds of survival versus the potential for career-defining discoveries. It was the kind of cost-benefit analysis that had gotten her into xenoarchaeology in the first place. Rodriguez, if I'm not back in 30 minutes, call Commander Zhao and tell him I found something that definitely wasn't in the geological surveys. Elena, wait. But she was already descending into the crack, her suit's lights cutting through the crystalline darkness. The walls around her glowed with a faint bioluminescence that pulsed in rhythm with the energy signatures her scanner was detecting. It was beautiful and alien and absolutely nothing like the simple mineral formations described in their mission briefing. As she descended, Elena began to hear something that made her blood run cold: voices. Singing, chanting, the unmistakable sound of intelligent beings conducting some kind of ceremony. On a planet that was supposed to be uninhabited. The fissure opened into a vast chamber that took Elena's breath away. Crystalline walls soared upward into darkness, covered in intricate patterns that seemed to shift and flow in the light of bioluminescent formations. And in the center of the chamber, arranged in a perfect circle around what appeared to be an altar of living crystal, stood dozens of figures that were unmistakably humanoid, and unmistakably not human. They were tall and elegant, with pale skin that seemed to shimmer with an inner light. Their hair flowed like liquid silver, and their features were sharp and angular in a way that suggested both beauty and otherworldly grace. But it was their ears that marked them as truly alien, long and pointed, extending well beyond what any human anatomy could produce. Elena's translator struggled with their language for a moment before finding patterns and beginning to provide subtitles in her visor display. What she read made her stomach lurch with growing horror. They were conducting a sacrifice. Elena's hands shook as she watched the ceremony unfold below. The young woman bound to the crystalline altar struggled against energy restraints that crackled with otherworldly power, her long ears marking her as one of the Kythari. Despite her predicament, she maintained a defiant expression that suggested she'd rather bite her captors than submit to whatever fate awaited her. "This is definitely not in the mission briefing," Elena whispered, her voice barely audible even to herself. Her suit's recording systems were capturing everything, but she knew Commander Zhao would have a spectacular meltdown when he reviewed this footage. Assuming she lived long enough to transmit it. The chanting grew louder, and Elena's translator worked overtime to parse the ancient dialect. From what she could understand, this ritual had been performed for countless generations to maintain some kind of cosmic balance. The chosen sacrifice, always someone with a rare genetic marker, would be offered to their gods to prevent some unspecified catastrophe from befalling their world. Elena's scientific mind rebelled against the primitive superstition, but her human heart focused on the young woman's obvious terror beneath her brave facade. The captive's eyes swept the crowd of chanting Kythari, and for a brief moment, they locked onto Elena's position in the shadows above. The alien woman's expression shifted from defiance to confusion to something that might have been hope. She mouthed something that Elena's translator couldn't quite catch, but the meaning was universal enough: "Help me." Elena checked her equipment reflexively. 1 plasma cutter, rated for geological sampling. 2 emergency charges, designed for cave-ins and equipment malfunctions. A med kit that probably wasn't rated for alien physiology. And a growing certainty that she was about to do something monumentally stupid. "Rodriguez," she whispered into her comm, "I need you to do me a favor." Static crackled back. "Elena? Where are you?" "I'm reading massive energy fluctuations from your position. I need you to prepare the shuttle for immediate departure. And maybe warn Commander Zhao that we might be leaving in a hurry." "Elena, what are you? Also, do we have any diplomatic protocols for interrupting alien religious ceremonies?" The silence that followed was so long that Elena wondered if her comm had failed. Finally, Rodriguez's voice came back, pitched slightly higher than usual. "Please tell me you're not thinking what I think you're thinking." I'm thinking that sometimes the Prime Directive can go straight to hell, Elena replied, checking the charge on her plasma cutter. The weapon wasn't designed for combat, but it would cut through most known materials, including whatever exotic matter was generating those energy restraints. Elena, this is insane. You can't just. Actually, I'm pretty sure I can. The question is whether I'll survive long enough to regret it. Elena began her descent toward the chamber floor, moving as quietly as her EVA suit would allow. The Kythari were completely absorbed in their ritual, their voices rising and falling in complex harmonies that made the crystalline walls resonate with sympathetic vibrations. She had to admit, it was beautiful in a terrifying sort of way. The bound woman noticed Elena's approach first, her eyes widening as she took in the strange figure in the bulky suit. Elena pressed a finger to her helmet where her lips would be, hoping the universal gesture for silence would translate across species. The woman nodded slightly, though Elena caught a hint of what might have been amusement in her expression. The energy restraints were more complex than Elena had anticipated. Instead of simple force fields, they appeared to be some kind of quantum entanglement system that resonated with the chamber's crystalline matrix. Cutting them would require precise timing and probably trigger every alarm system in the complex. Elena positioned herself behind the altar, plasma cutter ready, and realized she hadn't actually thought through the escape portion of this rescue attempt. The chamber had only one obvious exit, the ceremonial archway through which she'd entered, and it was currently blocked by several dozen chanting aliens who probably wouldn't appreciate the interruption. The lead priest, an elderly Kythari with elaborate ritual scarification covering his arms, raised what appeared to be a ceremonial blade. The energy restraints began to pulse more rapidly, and Elena realized she was out of time. "This is definitely going on my permanent record," she muttered, and activated the plasma cutter. The beam sliced through the quantum restraints like a hot knife through exotic matter, which was to say with a spectacular light show and a sound like reality tearing. Alarms immediately began wailing throughout the complex, and the crystalline walls started flickering between different colors as the chamber's energy matrix destabilized. The bound woman sat up immediately, rubbing her wrists and looking at Elena with an expression of genuine surprise. "Well," she said in accented but perfectly understandable standard, "that's the most dramatic rescue I've experienced this decade." Elena blinked. "You speak standard? Trade language, picked up from your people's merchants. Though I have to say, your timing could use some work." The woman gestured at the increasingly agitated crowd of priests, who were now pointing in their direction and shouting what Elena's translator helpfully identified as very impolite suggestions about bodily harm. "Sorry about that," Elena replied, grabbing the woman's arm. "I'm new at the dramatic rescue business. Any suggestions for getting out of here? Generally, I find that running away very fast tends to work." The woman grinned, revealing teeth that were slightly sharper than human normal. "I'm Lyralii, by the way. Lyralii of the Moon Whisper clan, though I suspect my clan membership is about to be revoked. Elena Vasquez, Terran Science Council. And yes, mine probably is too." They began running toward what Elena hoped was an exit, with increasingly angry Kythari in pursuit. The chamber's lighting continued to flicker erratically as the interrupted ritual sent feedback through the crystalline matrix. "So," Lyralii called out as they dodged around a particularly aggressive priest, "what exactly is the plan here? Because I should mention that this complex has approximately 47 different ways to kill intruders, and most of them involve creative uses of quantum entanglement." 47. Elena panted, her suit's environmental systems working overtime to keep up with the exertion. "Well, 48 if you count the sacrificial altar, but we've already established that one doesn't work properly." Lyralii vaulted over a fallen piece of crystalline machinery with athletic grace that Elena couldn't hope to match in her bulky suit. Elena's calm crackled to life. "Elena! What the hell is going on down there? I'm reading massive structural instabilities and what looks like a small army heading for your position." "Change of plans, Rodriguez." Elena called back, helping Lyralii navigate around a section of wall that had begun glowing ominously. "We're going to need immediate extraction, and possibly political asylum. Political asylum. Elena, what did you do? Elena glanced at Lyralii, who was currently disabled what appeared to be an automated defense system with casual expertise while humming an off-key tune. I think I just started an interstellar incident. The shuttle bay of the research vessel Meridian had never been designed to accommodate a diplomatic crisis, but Elena found herself discovering new uses for scientific equipment on a daily basis. 3 days after what Commander Zhao had diplomatically termed the incident, she was using a quantum resonance scanner as a makeshift privacy screen while Lyralii attempted to explain Kythari politics to an increasingly bewildered communication specialist. No, you don't understand, Lyralii was saying, her long ears twitching with what Elena had learned was either amusement or exasperation. I can't just go back and apologize. They've probably already declared me dead and redistributed my belongings. My cousin Velith has probably claimed my favorite meditation crystal by now, the opportunistic little. Miss Lyralii, Lieutenant Parker interrupted, consulting his tablet with the desperate expression of someone trying to navigate alien customs without a map. Surely there must be some diplomatic solution. Perhaps if we explained that Dr. Vasquez was acting on humanitarian impulses. Humanitarian? Lyralii laughed, a sound like silver bells with a hint of mischief. Lieutenant, my people have been sacrificing individuals with my particular genetic markers for over 3,000 years. They consider it a sacred duty. Explaining that humans find it morally objectionable is like telling them that gravity offends you. Elena looked up from the equipment she was pretending to calibrate. What exactly is this genetic marker you keep mentioning? Lyralii's expression grew thoughtful. My people call it the touch of the ancients. Roughly 1 in 10,000 Kythari are born with it. We can interface directly with certain types of technology, ancient technology, specifically. The kind our ancestors left behind before the Great Forgetting. Great Forgetting? Catastrophic loss of historical records about 5 millennia ago. Most of our early civilizations simply vanished from memory. The only things that survived were the old machines and the knowledge that people like me can make them work. Lyralii gestured around the shuttle bay. Speaking of which, your ship is making very interesting sounds. Elena frowned. What kind of sounds? The kind that suggest your technology and mine might have more in common than your engineers realize. Has anyone mentioned that your quantum field generators have been fluctuating since I came aboard? Lieutenant Parker's tablet chose that moment to emit a warning chime. He stared at it with growing alarm. Dr. Vasquez, we're showing anomalous readings in the ship's main computer core. Chief Engineer Morrison wants to speak with you immediately. Elena's stomach dropped. What kind of anomalous readings? The kind that suggest our main computer is trying to have a conversation with something. They found Chief Morrison in the engineering section, staring at a display panel with the expression of someone whose universe had just become significantly more complicated. The normally unflappable engineer looked up as they approached, his weathered face creased with worry. Elena, thank whatever deities you prefer that you're here. We've got a situation. Morrison gestured at the display, which was showing patterns that Elena didn't recognize. About 12 hours ago, our main computer started detecting what it calls compatible interface protocols throughout the ship. Then it started trying to establish communication with something. Communication with what? Elena asked, though she was beginning to suspect she knew the answer. We're not entirely sure, but the activity started right around the time our alien guest came aboard. Morrison glanced at Lyralii, who was studying the display with obvious interest. Miss, I don't suppose you know anything about this. Lyralii moved closer to the panel, her expression thoughtful. May I? Morrison looked at Elena, who nodded. Lyralii placed her palm against the display surface, and immediately the chaotic patterns resolved into something that looked almost like a language, geometric symbols flowing across the screen in organized sequences. Oh, Lyralii said softly. Oh, this is fascinating. Your computer isn't trying to talk to me, Chief Morrison. It's trying to talk to itself. Come again. Your technology and ours share common architectural elements. Ancient elements. The quantum processing cores, the crystalline memory matrices, they're based on the same fundamental principles that the ancients used. Lyraliai's eyes brightened with scientific enthusiasm. Your ship's computer has been dormant for so long that it forgot what it was capable of. My presence is just reminding it. Morrison looked skeptical. You're saying our computer has been suffering from amnesia? In a manner of speaking, yes. The technology your people reverse-engineered from ancient artifacts, you've been using maybe 10% of its actual capabilities. The rest has been locked away behind safeguards and protocols that were designed to prevent exactly this kind of awakening. Elena felt pieces of a larger puzzle clicking into place. Lyraliai, when you say ancient artifacts, are you talking about the same ancients that your people remember? Almost certainly. The quantum signatures are identical to what I've sensed in our sacred sites. Lyraliai paused, her expression growing more serious. Elena, I think your people and mine might be related. The engineering bay fell silent except for the hum of machinery and the soft chiming of the computer as it continued its attempts at self-discovery. Elena found herself staring at Lyraliai with new eyes, noting similarities she hadn't seen before, the bone structure, the way she moved, even the underlying logic of her humor. Related how? Morrison asked. Distant cousins, perhaps. Separated by time and space, but sharing common ancestors. Lyraliai gestured at the display, where new patterns were emerging with increasing complexity. The ancients were great travelers, great builders. They seeded technology throughout the galaxy before disappearing. But they also seeded life. Elena's comm unit buzzed with an incoming priority message. Commander Zhao's voice filled the engineering bay with barely controlled frustration. Dr. Vasquez, report to the bridge immediately. We have Kythari vessels approaching our position, and they're demanding the return of their, how did they put it? Stolen property. Lyraliai winced. That would be me. They really don't have much imagination when it comes to diplomatic language. How long do we have? Elena asked. They'll be in weapons range in approximately 6 hours, Zhao replied. I suggest you and our guest come up with a solution that doesn't involve starting an interstellar war. As they made their way to the bridge, Lyraliai kept pace with Elena easily despite the artificial gravity being calibrated for human physiology. You know, she said conversationally, there's something I should probably mention about the whole sacrifice ritual. What's that? It was never actually about appeasing gods or maintaining cosmic balance. That's just what the priests tell people to maintain social order. Lyraliai's expression grew grim. The real purpose was to eliminate individuals like me before we could figure out how to use the ancient technology properly. The ruling castes have been systematically murdering potential revolutionaries for 3 millennia, and calling it religious duty. Elena stopped walking. You're saying the entire ritual was a lie? Welcome to politics, Elena. Though I have to admit, getting rescued by an alien with a plasma cutter wasn't exactly how I planned to expose the conspiracy. Lyraliai grinned. But it definitely beats the alternative. The bridge of the Meridian buzzed with controlled chaos as 6 Kythari vessels materialized on the main display, their crystalline hulls gleaming like weaponized jewelry against the star field. Elena watched Commander Zhao's jaw tighten as tactical readings confirmed what everyone already suspected, they were significantly outgunned. Dr. Vasquez, Zhao said without taking his eyes off the display, please tell me you have some kind of miraculous solution brewing in that scientific brain of yours. Elena glanced at Lyraliai, who was studying the approaching ships with the casual interest of someone evaluating the local architecture. Define miraculous. The kind that doesn't involve explaining to Terran Command why I started a war over a xenoarchaeological dispute. Lyraliai moved to the communications console with fluid grace. Commander, may I suggest a slight modification to your standard diplomatic protocols? At this point, I'm open to interpretive dance if it prevents bloodshed. Excellent. Elena, remember how I mentioned that your ship's computer has been having an identity crisis? Lyraliai's hands moved over the console with surprising familiarity. I've been teaching it some new tricks. The main display flickered, and suddenly the approaching Kythari vessels appeared in much greater detail. Elena could see individual crew members through transparent sections of the hulls, could read the energy signatures of their weapon systems, and most importantly, could detect the quantum resonance patterns that identified each ship's technological heritage. How are you getting this level of sensor resolution? Lieutenant Parker asked, his voice pitched slightly higher than usual. Your sensors aren't just passive receivers anymore, Lyraliai explained, her fingers dancing across controls that Elena was fairly certain hadn't existed on the console 5 minutes ago. They're actively interfacing with the quantum substrate that underlies all ancient technology, including the Kythari ships. Commander Zhao turned to stare at her. You're hacking their vessels. I prefer to think of it as introducing myself. Elena, take a look at the lead ship's command structure. Tell me what you see. Elena studied the tactical display, noting the highlighted areas that showed power distribution and crew positions. It looks like, wait, that can't be right. What? The command crew includes someone with the same quantum signature as Lyraliai. And another person. And. Elena's voice trailed off as the implications hit her. They're not here to retrieve stolen property. They're here to retrieve stolen people. Lyraliai nodded grimly. The Moon Whisper clan has been hiding individuals with the touch for generations. My supposed sacrifice was meant to eliminate the last of us and complete their genocide. But they didn't count on my cousin staging a rescue mission. The communications array crackled to life, and a voice speaking fluent standard filled the bridge. Terran Vessel Meridian, this is Captain Silvermoon of the Kythari ship Star Whisper. We understand you have our cousin aboard. We've come to offer her sanctuary and to thank whoever was brave enough to interrupt that barbaric ritual. Commander Zhao blinked. Well, that's not what I was expecting. Captain Silvermoon, Lyraliai called out, grinning broadly, you always did have excellent timing. Though I have to say, bringing 6 warships to pick up one person seems a bit excessive, even for you. Lyraliai. You're alive. The relief in the alien captain's voice was unmistakable. We weren't certain the human had succeeded in freeing you until our sensors detected your quantum signature interfacing with their technology. Elena moved closer to the communications console. Captain, this is Dr. Elena Vasquez. I'm the human who interrupted the ceremony. I need to ask, how long have your people known about the connection between our technologies? There was a pause before Captain Silvermoon responded. Dr. Vasquez, our hidden clans have been studying the ancient legacy for centuries. We've known about human expansion into this sector for decades, but we've been unable to make contact due to the restrictions placed on us by the ruling castes. Lyraliai's rescue has given us the excuse we needed to finally reveal ourselves. Lyraliai leaned closer to the console, her expression growing serious. Silvermoon, the Terrans don't know about their own heritage. Their technology is ancient derived, but they've forgotten the connection. Forgotten? Captain Silvermoon's voice carried obvious surprise. How do you forget something that fundamental? Elena cleared her throat. With great difficulty and several thousand years of technological development that focused on reverse engineering rather than understanding. We've been using ancient artifacts as the basis for our quantum computing and faster-than-light travel, but we never realized they were anything more than extremely advanced alien technology. Elena, Lyraliai said softly, show them the data we discovered in your computer core. Elena nodded and transferred the files they'd uncovered during their investigation of the ship's awakening systems. The data painted a picture of human expansion throughout the galaxy that went back far further than official records indicated. Settlements that predated known colonial efforts, technology that appeared in human development cycles without clear evolutionary pathways, and genetic markers that suggested human populations had been influenced by the same ancient civilization that had shaped Kythari development. Fascinating, Captain Silvermoon murmured after several minutes of analysis. Dr. Vasquez, it appears that humans and Kythari are indeed distant cousins, separated by time and circumstance but sharing common genetic and technological heritage. The ancients didn't just leave behind artifacts, they left behind children. Commander Zhao rubbed his temples as if fighting off a headache. So you're telling me that this entire situation is essentially a family reunion? A family reunion that's been delayed by about 5,000 years, Lyralii added cheerfully. Though I have to say, Elena's rescue technique really brought everyone together nicely. Elena found herself laughing despite the magnitude of the revelations. 3 weeks ago, she'd been a xenoarchaeologist focused on mineral surveys and routine research. Now she was apparently part of an interstellar family tree that spanned multiple civilizations and several millennia. Captain Silvermoon, Elena said, what happens now? The Terran Science Council is going to have some very difficult questions about all of this. Dr. Vasquez, we'd like to propose a cultural and technological exchange program. Our hidden clans have preserved knowledge that your people have lost, and your people have developed applications for ancient technology that we never imagined. Together, we might be able to piece together what the ancients intended for their legacy. Lyralii placed a hand on Elena's shoulder, her touch warm even through the fabric of Elena's uniform. Elena, you saved more than just my life when you cut through those restraints. You saved an entire genetic line from extinction and opened a door between our peoples that should have been opened centuries ago. Elena looked around the bridge, taking in the faces of her crewmates as they processed the implications of first contact with humanity's long-lost cousins. Commander Zhao looked like he was already mentally composing his report to Terran Command. Lieutenant Parker was frantically taking notes on his tablet. Chief Morrison was studying the enhanced sensor displays with obvious fascination. Well, Elena said finally, I suppose this beats finding mineral deposits. Though, Lyralii added with that mischievous grin that Elena was beginning to recognize as trouble, you should probably know that my cousin Silvermoon has been looking for an excuse to explore human space for years. Don't be surprised if this cultural exchange program turns into something much more extensive. Elena smiled, realizing that her career in xenoarchaeology had just taken a turn towards something entirely unprecedented. She'd started this mission looking for rocks and ended up discovering family. Somehow, I think I can live with that.